There's upsides to the murder of children.
Yes, there's upsides to it.
I think, I think we're gonna have to stop here, John.
Well, you're too black and white, I guess, for me to be able to share.
I mean, look,
I can I share my story?
Wow. Okay. I know you guys are going to have some things to say. I got a couple things to say. Two men talking over each other, trying to score points on moral relativism, not hearing anything that the other is saying, waiting for the other to stop talking so that they can score a point. And then Aubrey is now bringing up something that if Demartini was present, he would be able to build a bridge. Okay. So two guys comparing dick size for a couple hours.
Hey, so we got Brian D. Ridgway, Abigail Morgan, and myself, Keith Krantz here. And a few days ago, Aubrey Marcus and John Demartini had an interview, and it was supposedly a debate. And there was some controversy around this video. And Abigail and I thought we got to bring Brian onto this and get his reaction from this, because there's nobody on the planet that actually truly understands the whole concept of all is one, you create your reality, and everything is energy. It's like all these spiritual gurus say it and think they get it. And I didn't even realize how nobody really truly understands it until I fell into the level 5 world with Brian. So Brian, we got to get your perspective on this, because this is right up your alley. Hey, the reaction video you're about to watch really happened because we follow both of these amazing thought leaders who are really doing their part in helping raise consciousness around this planet. We respect them at an immense level, what they're bringing up to the world with their content and with their message and the work that they do. And if you watch this video, somebody might get a sense of, oh, there is some disrespect there based on the way that some of the reactions happen. Brian's personality is he lives in the moment with total, complete presence. And for some people who don't know Brian and don't realize that he's might be the most compassionate person I've ever met in my life, and he is always speaking from total 100% truth, no matter what.
And before you watch the rest of this video, I just want to chime in and reiterate, as I say multiple times throughout the video, I have nothing but love and respect for both of these gentlemen. I live in presence, and to me, literally everything is hilarious. And I know that not everyone is in the position where they have lost fear of death and all these other things. And I'm very compassionate, sensitive, and aware that not everybody sees everything as hilarious. And being that this original video that we're commenting and reacting to, many people found it super controversial because one of the gentlemen speaking, Dr. Demartini, was claiming that there is no such thing as evil. And I saw that Aubrey took great offense at that. And I noted that they were not listening to each other. And so a lot of my commentary is on how they were reacting to each other rather than listening, seeking to understand and respond. So if you get in any way triggered by any of the comments and observations that I make, I would invite you to just, consider what we're saying in this little preface and then back up a minute and watch what happened and see if your take on it is really so different from mine.
So I'm going to play a clip here and we'll just jump through a bunch of them. How's that sound?
Okay, let's do it.
What's the first question?
Whatever you perceive in the world around you is a projection of you. So whatever you see there, where do you do it in your own life, and how does it serve?
What happens when somebody, through their own agency, through their own projection, their own will, their own intent, interferes with your own projection of what you're actually experiencing in your life, like some predation of some sort?
To yourself?
Well, no, somebody else comes and interferes with you in your life.
Brian, there's a question that you ask everybody who comes to work with you before you ever say a word. And so if you were to start with that and then answer this question, I'd be really curious to see what your perspective is.
Yes. So my question is, do you accept the possibility that you're creating your reality? And this is going to be a theme throughout this entire, very painful to watch display of two guys competing to be right, without either one even remotely understanding the other. And so what I would propose from the very beginning is, I believe that if you were to ask Aubrey and Dr. Demartini, if you were to ask them, do you believe and accept the possibility that the three, I call this like the triumvirate of spiritual concepts, right? One, everything is energy. Two, all is one. And three, you're creating your reality. I believe I believe both of them would say yes to those questions. And it is astoundingly obvious to me that neither one of them are living it by what they're saying. Aubrey is positioning himself as morally superior and taking the high road to, well, just basically taking the moral high road and challenging Demartini. And Demartini is spewing out intellectual sound bites that are, it's like he's got a tool belt full of these spiritual quotes, very profound, very intellectual, and fascinating. But when it comes to life, they're just pretty much worthless. They're not helpful. And so, Demartini begins by offering an idea that's rooted in you create your reality. Then Aubrey immediately, well, that's, and Aubrey goes into defending victimhood. Yeah, but what about when someone does something bad to someone else? Well, you can't believe that you're creating your reality and still play the victim. Someone's doing bad things to someone else. Like, which is it? You believe in oneness and all is one and you're creating a reality? Or do you believe that you're a victim and other people can do bad things to you? I found it interesting. My first moment watching this, and I watched this introduction a couple times, Demartini had a perfect opportunity to say, well, Aubrey, do you accept the possibility that you're creating a reality? And then kind of help Aubrey to perhaps rise in consciousness. But he didn't. He started throwing out uh, 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 smug, esoteric statements to score points, which put Aubrey even more on the defensive to stand in his moral superiority. So I've joked about it, and I've actually talked to many people in the last several days since they came out, and there's comments like, penis size comparisons, like a big dick contest, with neither one hearing each other. And there's nothing in that exchange that could possibly benefit anybody. If they're going for controversy and likes and comments, they're going to get plenty of it. But if either one of them had any intent to benefit anyone else, there's nothing they said that would benefit anybody.
Yeah, I don't think that was the intent. I think now they're kind of hoping that's what's happening. Let's play a couple more and see what comes up here.
Before
So,
you play, Keith, before you play more,
yeah.
so Brian, what would you say to that concept that Demartini's talking about, the mirror concept, the projection concept? Because your take on that, I think, could be really helpful for people who are curious, having watched this, and they want to know.
Well, okay, I would say that every principle Demartini is stating, and let me be super clear about this. I'm not putting Aubrey down and I'm not putting Demartini down. I'm talking about two men that have a platform for helping people. And there's nothing in what they did that I could see having any benefit to anybody. And it just devolves from there, right? So regarding what Demartini's saying, I would say this. He's stating brilliant, mental, fascinating statements regarding the mirror principle without ever putting a foot on the ground to say, if you accept Aubrey, do you accept that we are each creating our reality? Because if you do, then you understand that when someone does something to you, that is happening for your benefit. And the only way to evolve through that is to start with a presumption. I am creating this. I am bringing this into my experience. Again, I think Demartini was somehow attempting to make that point. He just did it without hearing what Aubrey said and without connecting with Aubrey in any way. every word Demartini said, if someone was to pull it out, write it down, transcribe it, look at it, that's truth. But it's worthless and it doesn't benefit unless you start with the fundamental premise that you're creating your own reality. Otherwise, they're just intellectual concepts floating in the ethers that don't. There's a saying that I encountered many, many years ago in my early religious years, and it was the statement, someone being so heavenly minded that they're no earthly good. And I saw these just intellectual statements that aren't rooted in the one place where they can be fruitful and beneficial, which is I'm creating my reality. So if something happens, I'm creating it for my benefit.
And so in your level 5 work, you would say, that's me that is doing that to me. And so it's for my benefit. So it is me. There is no one else.
Absolutely. And that's for the person who's willing to go all the way into presuming from the start, I'm going to start to live and conceptualize, act, and think. And therefore, my responses will flow from this concept that I'm creating my reality. So when something does something, instead of looking at how that's wrong and how that's bad and how that's, I go, how is this a benefit for me? You can't do that without that fundamental premise that it's happening from you for you, that you are the one creating your reality. And both of these guys just seem to be espousing it while dodging it entirely.
Got it. Let's play another clip and see where it takes us here.
I have a really hard time with this, honestly, because if I went home today and somebody was assaulting my wife, I'm just driving home, had a nice podcast. We worked out some differences in our opinion and our ontology of morality and value, et cetera, and had a good time. And someone was in there assaulting my wife. I would forcibly stop it.
Probably. Because
no,
you would
not
value,
probably 100%
well,
certainly. I wouldn't say maybe this is his belief and this is my belief.
You're going to react in that setting exactly proportioned to your morality at the time. If you see what he's doing as evil, you're going to do what you can to stop him.
But it is evil.
In your perception, it will be. But
so you don't believe that there is actual evil?
No, I don't. I don't believe there's actual evil. I think what we have is we've personified that and give names to it and call it good or evil or God or devil and things like that. But these are anthropomorphisms. The reality is that there's an event there. I'm not negating that the person is doing something that challenges you. He may be taking your wife's life or trying to. If you value your wife, you'll try to save her life. That's perfectly understandable. And that would be good in your perspective. If you valued him and somebody was supporting him and he thought that she had done something that challenged him, they may see it completely different. I'm not one to take a side on that. I'm one to say, I'm going to look at what I'm going to do in that moment. And in that moment, I might find out that I would be favorable on your wife's side for sure. Probably so. And I would probably do what I can to stop. But then you're going to be in situational ethics again. You're now going to go, okay, I may have saved her life, but I've just killed somebody. So I'm now I'm doing a situational moral system there. If I murdered the person out of self-defense, that's considered good in some countries. In other places, you've just killed somebody. Over here, you just saved somebody's life. You're a hero and a villain at the same moment. So you have to decide which one is your belief. If you have a belief that one's good by saving her and this one's bad by killing him, but saving it because it's defense, then that's the situational ethics that you put yourself in. I'm not going to make it good or bad. I don't know exactly what that's going to be in that setting. I know that hypotheticals, it's easy to come up with hypotheticals, but the probability of your wife having an attacker is less likely unless she's somehow trying to live in anxiety and overprotection and putting herself in a position where that might happen. I would rather her, not be in a position where that happens. Rather do what I can to keep that from happening.
So there was a person who was on a train.
I would rather her, not be in a position where that happens. Rather do what I can to keep that from happening.
So there was a person who was on a train, Christopher Catan. There was an attacker with a knife, and he was going around looking to stab as many people as he could with the knife. Christopher Catan I believe that's the correct name there. He acted in a way that actually saved many lives from this kind of deranged knife-wielding attacker on the train.
Yep.
So
I'm
was he
familiar.
not...
Did he live, or did he
survived.
He survived, but he saved a lot of lives.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he survived. So in that instance, would you say that actually, based on your worldview, that he should have just let the guy continue
There's no
to...
should. There's no imperatives here. He's going to react. See, to try to live by a should is usually futile. The injected values of outer authorities are not something you can control. What you can control is your perception. If you're in a situation and you perceive something as really, really, really terrible at the time, you're going to react with an amygdala response and try to, if it's attacking you, you'll try to defend yourself with a fight or flight or freeze response. If you think it's something that's going to save somebody else's life and you think that's good, you're going to react that way. Your values at that moment are going to make you react according to what it is. The hypothetical about how and what you should do, it may not have anything to do with what they're going to do at that moment, because the injected values how we ought to be and the actual values of how we function are not always the same. So I don't know. Hypotheticals are usually just hypothetical. You can debate all day
Well,
long.
this was a real situation.
But if it's a real case, what he did in that setting, based on his perceptions at that moment and what his values were, he responded. That's all we can do. Some people would watch that and avoid and run and hide. Others will go and attack. If they thought that they could achieve something that was meaningful in their value system, they'll possibly attack the attacker. Another person would hide and scream and hide and try to protect themselves. Which one is good? You tell me. So if you feel you could actually, like when they had the shooting in Bondi Beach,
Mm-hmm.
there's a guy that went and attacked the guy that was shooting. Well, he had some special forces training or something. He had some knowledge and things, and he didn't feel that was overwhelming to try that. But most people were running and hiding under cars and doing whatever they could. So to say that one's good and the other one's bad or whatever is, I don't think that doesn't make sense to me. What does make sense is that value system of that individual at that moment with those perceptions are going to determine how they're going to react. And each of those reactions are going to be appropriate to them in that perception. I can't make that one wrong for coward and running under the car. I can't make that just good because he went to do it, because he could have killed himself and been a foolish actor. We don't know what those consequences are. All I know is that the person did. He went out of his way and he thought he could attack the guy, and he did. But he didn't get him to stop shooting. He kept shooting afterwards, but he still tried his best to stop him. Mm-hmm. So in his case, he thought that was the wisest. In another person's case, running under a car was his wisest thing, because he may be thinking, or she may be thinking, I got 3 kids at home. If I go over there and I do that and I get killed, my kids are going to be left without food and clothing and shelter. So they're going to have to sit down and make a situational ethics at that moment. Do I go and I save my kids and have a higher value on my kids and save my life for the sake of my family? My wife just died. I have nothing to lose. I'm going to go ahead and attack that guy. I don't know until I go and look at all the different parameters, the situation, to put that together, to put some sort of assessment on that. And I'm not going to make them as good or bad. I'm just going to say that human beings are going to respond based on their values at that moment to that situation, based on what their experiences is.
So the question I have for Brian right now is, what would your response be to what Aubrey started out talking about there with that shooting and that incident?
Well, I would like to just simply answer the question, and it maybe pull me right back. We've had many conversations like this, so feel free to pull me right back to that question. Before I address that, there's a couple things that I see. Number one is I really see Aubrey he's attempting to take the moral high road, which is as noble as it is for someone who comes from that angle, and a certain amount of moral outrage and like trying to score points. And then I notice one of the things that's surprising to me is I have a lot of respect for both of these guys, and I've had respect for Demartini for many, many years. And the way he just interrupts mindlessly and inattentively, just cutting in. And I see the look on his face. He's throwing out another intellectual statement that does not meet Aubrey where he is. I totally get where Aubrey's coming from, and it's moral superiority. And then Demartini is kind of coming at him with what would appear to be moral relativism, which it's not. That's not what he's doing. He's speaking about actual, you could say, spiritual principles about how the universe works. And again, without addressing the fundamental, most profound core truth, it falls flat. And Aubrey's getting a little frustrated. Like, okay, dude, you're just saying all this brilliant, arrogant bullshit, but you're not addressing what I'm talking about. And then Martini goes further with explanation, on and on and on with explanation, not utterly oblivious that Aubrey's not hearing a word he says. Aubrey's waiting to ask the next question to prove his point. And Martini is waiting for the question in. Sometimes he doesn't even wait for the question in. He just jumps in and does it again. So my response to this is Aubrey saying, okay, so what about this? What happens? Demartini goes into a dissertation on how what people do is from their values, which is partially true. People can also act entirely from presence, which is something that I perceive Aubrey having mastered, seeming like he's coming from presence, and Demartini hadn't even thought about it. He's just coming from intellect. And no offense to either one. It's just, where's the fruit in that? There isn't. So if Aubrey, yeah, go ahead, Keith.
When you say Aubrey's not coming from presence and Demartini is coming from intellect, what do you mean by that exactly? By observing these short conversations.
Yeah. So here's the scoop. Like, without one of the constraints we're going to have with any conversation we have like this, someone who's hearing me and isn't familiar with the work I do and the results that we get for people and where I'm coming from, this is going to be a little bit weird too. And I totally understand. I would invite anybody who desires to take a look at some of our stuff and that's freely available and get a little more acquainted, grounded with where I'm actually coming from. Here's where I'm coming from. I perceive, after 45 years of my own inner work journey and all the stuff that I've been through and done, including being dead for 30 minutes when I was 16 years old, that we are literally creating our reality first and foremost. We are the creator, being disguised temporarily as a human in a body on a planet. Now, as a human in a body on a planet, we've all been through trauma. And the vast majority of us are coming from, as Demartini said, we're coming from our values. We're unconsciously coming from our programming, our pain, our past, and we're knee-jerking a million times a day. We can get really good at disguising our knee-jerking where we appear to be coming from presence. The vast majority of people haven't touched presence for 30 seconds in their lives. When someone is fully and completely present, they're not coming from their values and their morals, as Demartini said. That's not true at all. That's one way of approaching life, is coming from their values. He's leaving out the most critical core element, which is you can come at life and meet everything that arises from complete, pure presence, which is beyond morality. It's beyond your learnings. It's beyond your values. It's beyond everything you've ever been programmed with. And when you come to life from total presence, you perceive accurately, you recognize what's coming on, and you respond sanely and effectively. That's not possible within the paradigm that either of these gentlemen are speaking from. Aubrey's asking, what do you do when something bad happens? He's living in a world of good and bad. Then every time he engages Demartini on the good, bad, hero, villain, etc., Demartini talks intellectually about the good and bad, but he never gets to the floor. I would say, Aubrey, let me ask you a question. Would you be willing to consider that all dichotomies of good, bad, right, wrong, good and evil, positive and negative, better and worse, best and worst, hero, villain, deserving and undeserving are mental concepts which are false. And if you would consider that as a possibility, then we can have a conversation. If you're not willing to consider them, you're not going to be open to my perspective. Why are you doing a podcast interview with people if you're not open to their perspective? Because I'm going to start from there. All these dichotomies are false. There's no good or bad. There's no right or wrong. That is all mental concepts in the mind. Well, Brian, you're saying that that's not bad. Well, I am saying it's not bad, and I'm saying it's not good. I agree with Demartini there, but let's get to why and what is infinitely beyond this good bad dichotomy bullshit that keeps us at war. And let's get down to the root. I'm creating my reality. If I accept the possibility that I am the being that is creating my reality, I'm infinitely more than this little body ego that you're worrying about somebody hurting or killing. Demartini never even starts to put it into context. He just keeps spewing intellectual statements that, again, don't connect with where Aubrey is. I would be seeking to build a bridge to Aubrey and see if he's open to considering a perspective that might include more than he's looking at.
And when you're talking about presence, Brian, that's not a mental construct and it's not a mental action. So how would you describe being fully present, like you were talking about?
Okay, so every spiritual seer that has ever been, and quantum physics has recent decades verified that first and foremost there's no physical universe here. There's consciousness having an experience. Again, if you were to ask Aubrey or Demartini, do you believe, they would say absolutely yes, and neither of them are remotely living it, as evidenced by their argument, their debate. Okay, so when you become aware that you are actually, yes, you are the person, and you're simultaneously the source of the universe that you're a person in, you realize that you can either identify as the person, Eckhart Tolle's words, which I don't 100% agree with this concept of ego. It doesn't fully address the issue. But let's just temporarily use kind of ego. So when you identify as the ego self, the small person, everything you think of is in terms of what's good for me or bad for me. When you become fully present, you're identifying as the larger you, the true self, which isn't bound up in that thinking. And it's totally purely obvious to me that neither of those men are present. They're both in their minds attempting to score points on each other and to their audience, frankly, to be liked, to score a point, instead of daring to get down to the actual root of this, which is, if everybody's creating their reality, this moral relativism bullshit topic isn't serving or benefiting. It's fascinating. Get a lot of likes and a lot of views, lots of comments.
So, Brian, one of the things that really compelled me when I started to find out about you and your work is the way you are so completely coming from desire to be of benefit. And something that I'm noticing as I'm seeing this interview is I don't see that there would be a lot of benefit for people. In fact, in some ways, they might leave feeling worse after watching some of that. And I'm wondering if you could share something from your perspective, just kind of on the whole of this whole topic that they're sharing, to help those people who might be in this moment going, what did I just see? And kind of like feeling fear, probably.
Yeah. Well, okay, there's a little bit of space. That question isn't. I'm not 100% clear on exactly where I can answer. My mind first goes to this, so I'm going to go there and feel free to just pull me right back. Okay. Let's look at why it's not helpful. Why what we're watching is not helpful. Okay. So Aubrey is Aubrey playing is victim's advocate, which can only come a victim mindset, and victim consciousness. And I am certain that is not his intention. And pretty sure he doesn't know it. And he is not a personal development or spiritual guru. Now, I get a sense that he kind of fashions himself to be that. But his questions make it clear that he's not coming from the awareness that he could do that. I'm sure a lot of people listen to him and look to him for advice very unwisely. Okay. Demartini, on the other hand, is a 30 plus, I don't know how many years, guru veteran who could have helped Aubrey. If he had been willing to build a bridge to Aubrey, he could have helped Aubrey's audience had he been interested in helping Aubrey. So, like, I'm going to say what, in that situation, I would have gone into the room with Aubrey with my intention being, how do I benefit this man in front of me the most? If he's willing and open, and how do I benefit every listener that's hearing this as much as I possibly could. And as he brought up victim situation after victim situation and justifying his position as Aubrey did, I would have said, "Are you open to this possibility that you're creating a reality? Let's look at it from there." I would have been spell breaking Aubrey. I would have been helping Aubrey to question some of these things that he's so morally superior about when he's actually speaking from a lower state of consciousness than he knows. So with that framework, how would you reframe that question where I could maybe meet it?
Absolutely. So someone sees that headline that's on that video. There is no such thing as evil or benefit from dead children. And that's not going to be beneficial. That's just going to be like, what? And so how would you address this whole topic of there's these bad things happening to somebody, children are dying, or whatever it is. And now suddenly we're framing that as it's not bad, it's not evil, without any bridge whatsoever to help somebody really see where that's actually coming from.
Yeah, well, okay, and that really highlights my point. The fact is that Aubrey and his team chose that clickbait thumbnail and title, which I understand, I completely understand. And they took that angle while ultimately having nothing to offer the audience other than a debate. Mm-hmm. Two guys comparing dick size for a couple hours. And what could they do with that? What could they do? Well, they could bring me on, but I don't think Aubrey's ready for that conversation, frankly. And if he is, I would love to have the conversation. I'm sure that we could elevate. And I want to restate, anyone who thinks I'm coming from disrespect, I'm not. I'm coming from a focus on benefiting people, nothing else. And so I can build that moment of bridge, which is, if you're unfamiliar with the idea that we're each creating our reality, there's nothing I'm going to say that is actually going to benefit you on this topic, because you're going to think I'm saying that dead babies is good. Okay. Side note. Okay. I am so not left, and I am so not right. I am so not conservative, and I am so not liberal whatsoever. And I have found it really interesting for like the last 4 years. If I ever question any left-leaning topic, everybody I know that identifies as being on the left instantaneously goes, "Oh, so you're for Trump? Oh, so you're the reflexiveness, the unconscious, pre-programmed reflexiveness of that is the same pre-programmed reflexiveness that Aubrey and a lot of the people in the comments were bringing. Oh, so you're saying, no, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's good. If you are open to the possibility of considering that you're creating your reality, and the vast majority of people in my audience have been mentally getting that they're creating their reality and all is one and everything is energy. They've been wrestling for years with, how do I get from the mental idea of this to living it? Well, the way you do it is by becoming present, which is actually quite simple. It's one of the main things we do. And from presence, you can ask the question, is it possible I'm creating my reality? Is it possible that on a magnitude that I haven't considered, I'm creating my reality? Like, as in, is it possible that there's a real me, an infinite me, that's actually creating my entire reality, including my experience as this person? From there, you look at the person that you're trying to be the moral savior of, and you say, is it possible they're creating their reality? And there was this phrase that Aubrey tossed out, saving lives. And my question, I mean, my God, how many times did we hear that over a few year period when people were talking about saving lives? This saves lives, this saves lives, this saves lives. Are you absolutely positive that life can be lost and that it's something to save? Like, are you sure beyond a shadow of a doubt lives need to be saved and that you're the one to save them? Is that so noble? Are you sure? Not if we're creating our reality. It's irrelevant. That's just program madness.
Live things that we're doing together, master classes, stuff like that. You're talking about a similar neutrality kind of viewpoint. However, there's this key piece that I perceive is not present in this debate between these guys, which is that as the infinite being that is not the body, not the ego, not all of that, there's just this idea of experience and nothing else. And I think
Yeah.
sharing that could be really beneficial.
Yeah, well, so for anyone who's ready to hear it, if you're not ready to hear it, this is going to sound like craziness, and if you're ready to hear it, it's going to land. So, if you strip away all the morality that you were ever taught, if you were to question everything you know about, okay, why are we here? How did we get here? Where are we going? And what's the right thing to do while we're here to get good seats wherever it is that we're going? If you question all of that, the only thing that you can be absolutely certain beyond the shadow of a doubt is that you're here, you're having experience, and it's ongoing. That's the only thing that you can be certain about. From there, everything else is, what do you desire to experience? All right. With that said, I find for the person who is spiritually ready, for the person who is willing to say, I'm done suffering, I'm ready to take personal responsibility for my life and my creation and grab my life and start to direct it the way I desire to go. The concept that you are infinite, unlimited, eternal being itself, you are ultimately that being. You're not a being, you are being. And you're here projecting into the experience of limited life as a human to have experience. Now, if that's true, and you are secretly eternal and infinite, what's the big deal in projecting down into being a human on a planet for a while? And if the real you is eternal, what's the big fucking deal how you die? Whether you live 20 years or 3 minutes, whether you go out in the jaws of a bear or falling off a building or dying in the middle of the biggest orgasm of your life, to the infinite you, it's no big deal. It's only when you're trapped in your limited human consciousness and having such a goofy debate that it matters. And trying to make death wrong and bad. It's that person's desire and choice and decision how they're going to be born and die. It's none of your damn business. You're not the savior of the freaking world. I'm sorry that I'm not sorry, but you're not, and neither am I. And taking on that moral superiority, you're just actually perpetuating your own suffering, really, by taking that position. So there's my answer. Anytime, and I know Abigail, if you want to fine tune the question to narrow me in a little bit more, feel free.
Yeah, to me, that's such an essential understanding. And the paradigm you're coming from completely changes from, oh my gosh, I'm looking at these things that are seemingly horrific from a
Yep.
human perspective in a body.
Yep.
And then, of course, people are going to think that if they're coming from that paradigm. And if
Yep.
they're from the paradigm you just talked about, it's a totally different thing.
Yeah. And to me, the fact that Demartini never once even brought that up, he didn't think, let me help build a bridge to this guy so he can understand. He just hid behind the wall, throwing more intellectual darts until Aubrey got pissed.
All right. All right. Let's play another one here.
So you don't believe in any universal ethics, any universal values where like child abuse is always bad?
Don't know, because what is child abuse? That's the thing. What we would call child abuse here in America.
Having sex with a 5-year-old.
Well, I've seen brothers and sisters have incest in a bathtub and having sex with each other and
I'm
playing with
talking
each
about
other.
an adult having sex with a 5-year-old.
Well, that's not my preference. That's not something that I have experienced in my life, but I don't know what's going on. After working with about 1,300 cases of pedophilia that I've gotten to work with, both sides of the equation, I find out that many times the people that are the pedophiles were either slammed and punished for masturbation or punished in a very young dealing with sexuality. And that little boy or little girl that's in that age is still inside that adult. And that little boy is now being attracted to the little girl at the same age. I'll give you a real case. I worked with a gentleman who was from Japan who'd been 8 years in prison for pedophilia, a psychologist over there.
So I'd like to continue with this, but once again, we could go backwards. We don't need to. Demartini builds no bridge. He starts launching. Aubrey's trying to gotcha him. Oh, so you don't believe there's any ethics? You don't believe there's any? That's not what he said. Not exactly. But then, so Aubrey's trying to play gotcha by trapping him with, oh, no one could disagree with this. I'm definitely going to be right here. I'm definitely going to score on this one. And Demartini has a shot, another shot, to build a bridge, make a connection, and then help Aubrey see if Aubrey's willing to be open. And he could have benefited the entire audience had he done so, but he didn't. He says he does a gotcha back. Like, okay, that's great, but what? Okay, so what I'll do for just a moment, I'm going to give the same. I'm going to answer the same question. Okay, so Brian, you saying that you don't believe that there's any universal principles about that child abuse is always bad. Okay. Aubrey, I hear you. I'm going to say no. However, what I want to do is I'm going to reiterate. I'm operating from the premise, and I'm inviting you, if you're open, to consider the premise that we're each creating our own reality. Now, we can go all the way out to the farthest star. And Aubrey, if you and I were, having a beer or smoking a joint or doing a mushroom journey in Peru or something, and we were in deep conversation off of this podcast where we're both trying to be proud, and prove our dick is the biggest. If you and I were having a conversation and I asked you, do you believe in reincarnation? Do you believe we live multiple lifetimes? Do you accept the possibility that our soul is eternal? Do you accept that possibility? So that would mean that the me that's here on this planet in a body, the real me, is infinite and eternal and has lived an infinite number of lifetimes and can live an unlimited number. Aubrey, you'd say yes to that. But then you switch out of your spiritual awareness into this moral superiority. Harm to children is bad. Well, first of all, if we're creating our reality, then that child, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, 6, 7 years old, is also the infinite creator of their life. and they can live an infinite number of lifetimes. And if in one lifetime they're experimenting with being a pedophile who does this to children, in another lifetime they're exploring being a child who gets molested. You're not entertaining that possibility with this moral superiority. But I know that if I were to ask you outside of this, you would say you accept that we're eternal. And so now you're attempting to force morality on a situation. Why exactly? Is it to look good? Is it why are you doing that when I know that you accept the possibility we're each creating our reality? So at the ultimate level, do you accept the possibility that a soul, an eternal soul being, can choose a childhood in which you endure profound pain and torture and molestation? Do you accept that possibility or not? I know you do. So why are you playing this moral superiority here in this conversation? Next, I know people from direct experience who went through molestation. And I'll tell you right now, I had a couple of experiences of being molested as a child. I was not technically raped. It didn't go that far, but trauma is trauma, bud. I went through it and I came out of it. And I look back and I see how it was for my benefit that it went the way it did. And I have helped many people who have been through molestation on profound levels that you don't even want to hear about right now. And I have
And Paul, just
watched
jump in
when they,
real quick on this one. Yeah, I mean, with the literally thousands and thousands of testimonials and just transformations that you've had over the years, I mean, with especially with women, would you say that not the majority, but like out of all the different level types of trauma, this type of like sexual trauma is by far probably the most that people have experienced that you've worked with and helped move?
I wouldn't say it's the most, but it's so
Mm,
physical abuse in all of its realms,
mm.
including sexual abuse. It's way more prevalent than anyone has any idea of. Okay. Now, guess what? Demartini is accurate about how early sexual trauma drives people. If they don't heal it, they're much more likely to be a molester of some type because they're desperately trying to get their needs met through a way that society frowns upon. Well, Brian, what you like? No, 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 I'm not a Trump supporter just because I don't agree with Biden or whatever the hell you want to play. That's not what I'm saying. But when you come down to it, I have worked with people, and I could give the most extreme examples. I will just suggest about one who was from age 3 to 10, was molested frequently by a family member, with another family member participating and adding torture to the scenario. Okay. Not pleasant, not my choice, not my preference, but it was their soul's preference, or they wouldn't have gone through it. And so I worked with this person for probably 9 months. Now, on the third session, they brought it up, they talked about it, and they began the profound healing of it. Today, they look back and they're grateful that it happened. They realize that they created the soul level being, created that experience in childhood so that they could go through some things and expand and come to love the unlovable. And today she helps people who had been molested. Now, here's a secret for you. While you're making molestation a bad thing, Brian, you're making it a good thing. Stop doing that. No, I'm not. While you're making molestation a bad thing and agreeing with the person that they are a victim, your ability to help them is vastly, vastly limited. Okay, that moral superiority doesn't serve anyone but you looking good to people that are playing moral superiority. Okay, she told me. Now I'm going to go way out on a limb here. Okay, on that third session, when she told me the entire thing, including things that her father did and the things that her mother did, I said, in the middle of her tears, I said, I just want to start by saying, I don't judge you at all. And she burst into tears and she wept for about 15 minutes, deep sobbing, almost vomiting. And when she was done, I said, and I don't judge your parents either. I seek to understand what happened in their lives that would have them able to do such a thing. And she went to an entirely deeper level of weeping. And when she came out of that, she said, that's why I'm working with you. Every other therapist that I've ever talked to made my mom and dad wrong, evil, and bad. And I couldn't heal while I was still framing it in that unconscious way from that unconscious sleepwalking position. That's what I'm standing on as I'm talking about this.
Abigail, maybe, and before you jump in, I have a feeling you've got some thoughts on this one. So Brian's book here, if you don't already have Your New Beginning, if you're seeing this on YouTube or somewhere, check the description. There'll be a link for this, Your New Beginning, 5 Keys to Getting What You Want. There'll be some links to free webinars. I mean, there's been hundreds, thousands of people that have had their lives transformed in the area of money, relationships, and health. And the foreword of this book by Natalie Ledwell, co-founder of Mind Movies, which is the same Mind Movies that Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about in most all his events. On this topic of you create your reality and oneness, she says, Brian offers a different truth to the one you're living by now. A truth, I might add, that when you hear it, it feels like the truth. Knowing or understanding oneness is one thing, but embodying it and living it in your life is a whole different animal. And that difference can make all the change in your life. And so she talks about how Your New Beginning made it easier for you to start living the luscious life you want. So go check it out. I promise you'll be glad you did. So Abigail, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is something Brian's helped me with directly. So I can speak to this from personal experience. Yeah, having experienced things as a young child in kind of a way I would have actually judged prior to this as weird. Like, it wasn't even apparent. It wasn't the typical situation. It was something seemingly bizarre that I experienced as a child with molestation and physical harm. And the hell that I was living in before I found Brian and actually experienced the spellbreaking work that he does was just indescribable. Physical pain, constant physical pain, surgeries, lifelong experiences that were, connected to that early trauma that was profound and extremely painful, and then to shift to the awareness I have now, I'm completely free of all physical pain, completely free of the mental suffering, the emotional suffering, and exactly what Brian just described. Like, for me, that was literally going from hell to absolute freedom from any of that. And it is coming from that paradigm shift and seeing it differently and actually seeing, oh yeah, this is my soul, this is my journey, this is what I'm experiencing because I'm creating my reality. And if you aren't ready to accept that, it's going to sound crazy or it's going to sound awful. And if you are, then it is the path to liberation.
All right, Brian, we got another one for you. Let's take a look at this one. Curious on your perspective on this one here.
Girl
Me
at
too.
the same age. I'll give you a real case. I worked with a gentleman who was from Japan who'd been 8 years in prison for pedophilia. A psychologist over there asked me to work with him. They were in the room with him. And his mother caught him masturbating when he was 8.5 years old. She beat him nearly to a pulp.
But that's okay because that was just her value system, right?
Well, she had a husband
There's a
that had a high
gotcha.
sex drive
But
and was looking at porn.
There's a gotcha.
And
There's two guys comparing dick size. Gotcha. Like,
Yep.
what the hell is that, man?
when she saw her son begin to do that, she lost it. The anger she had to her husband got taken out on the child, and the husband was more assertive and more powerful, and so she couldn't take out her anger on him, so she took it out on the
that,
child.
Keith.
So
Hit
that's
pause
okay?
Hit pause if you will. Okay. So this is Aubrey's second time in one sense. They're interrupting each other, competing for largest penis award. And then Demartini's basically oblivious to, he's just going to make his point regardless of what Aubrey does. So then Demartini gives a partial, once again, I believe if you were to ask Demartini, do you accept that everyone's creating their reality? I believe he would say yes all day long, but he doesn't go there. He says, because this boy, the mom is upset because the dad has a high sex drive, he's looking at porn. He doesn't even begin to address the fact that that woman is, the mom is creating her reality. The dad is doing what he's doing because of what happened in his child. The woman's doing what she's doing and reacting because of what happened in her child. It's an infinitely deeper conversation than either one of them are even scratching the surface as they try to score points on each other and prove each other wrong while interrupting each other over and over and over. Aubrey, we saw this video where he's inviting the best critique of the debate. Why are you wanting people to critique a debate when you could be having a discussion to get to the bottom of this and actually benefit your audience? So
Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, and Brian, on this point here, I think your perspective on inner children could be really beneficial for people.
Yeah. Okay. So to put that into a soundbite here, how about that? There is in psychology, there's a concept of the inner child, and there's validity to that. There's definitely benefit in it. And I have seen, I don't know how many dozens of books that talk about it, including books about it, articles about it, psychology articles. And every single one of them that I have seen is missing the critical, most crucial understanding, which is that you don't have an inner child. You have a vast number of inner children. Every time that you ever experienced physical pain or emotional pain, or physical and emotional pain. So let's do physical pain. You skin your knee, ouch, pain. Emotional pain. You stand up in front of the class, the teacher mocks you, and now the whole class is laughing at you, or someone in your family calls you a name when you're in a vulnerable state. That's emotional pain. Physical and emotional pain, mom or dad literally slaps you in the mouth while telling you what a stupid idiot you are. Physical and emotional pain. In every moment of physical and or emotional pain, you freeze at that age, and that inner child in you is frozen in that moment until you undo the trauma. It has to be undone. There is no way around it. It must be undone. And this knowledge is completely absent in all the spiritual and psychological information that I've ever investigated. They just don't comprehend it, let alone have a system for doing anything about it. So with the work that I do, I help people to unmake those inner children and the power, magic, and energy of that inner child re-merges with you. And now you're sane in the present moment, and that child is set free. Neither of these guys are saying anything about or from an understanding that could benefit anybody without that information. They're just debating and polishing penises again.
Yep. Speaking of that, let's keep going on this.
I'm not making it. I'm just trying to give
It's not okay. It's just fundamentally not. It's not okay to beat a child.
Hit pause right here. Hit pause right here. I know you just started, Keith, but listen to this.
Yep.
Aubrey has made himself the moral king, the moral hero, the moral authority. He's the definer and the arbiter of what's okay and what's not okay. Aubrey, what do you base on your it's not okay? Define okay. According to whom? Under what circumstances? To what extent? Aubrey, what the fuck are you talking about? Not okay, not okay, not okay, not okay. And now, of course, John's going to come back in debate.
To sexually assault a child. It's not okay to murder people wantonly. There is something actually fundamental inside of us that is actually on a driving force towards life, love, freedom, the experience to live this beautiful world. And if somebody is intentionally interfering with that, we have an obligation, we have an obligation to try and prevent or stop that.
Well, all I know is that the gentleman grew up, to continue my point that I'm making.
Hit pause, hit pause, hit pause.
At 8.5 years old.
This is the thing about this. Here's a moment for John to say, Aubrey, I totally hear you. I completely understand what you're saying. Allow me to challenge your thinking. Nope. I'm going to stretch my willy and make it a half an inch longer. We're going to compete again. Well, if you'll let me finish my... Oh, for fuck's sake, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Old. All the girls that he targeted for pedophilia were at 8.5, even though he went up to 33 years old. Now, some of the girls were meeting him in a dressing room at a mall and having multiple sex with him. These are 8.5-year-old girls having sex multiple times with him. So I'm not interested in the morality here. I'm interested in the why do people do what they do? What is it that drives these behaviors? Because if you just make it black and white and you don't look deeper, you assume that that's bad and good, and you never get to understand why that's happening.
No, I don't assume
I
it. I
agree with
actually
him on
know
that.
it. I actually know it in my body. Like I think,
Well,
and I think this
but-
is
No, you don't. No, you don't know it in your body. You're reacting from your trauma just like everybody else. You don't know it in your body, Aubrey, and you're not being open-minded. This is, to me, this is the first point that Demartini actually made fairly solidly without the arrogance. He said, if you just make it wrong or right, you prevent yourself from understanding. And here's the catch. If somebody wants to put an end to pedophilia in their universe, how are they going to do it? Go kill all the pedophiles? Because they just put themselves at war with their creation, and there's going to be a war coming back. The way that you would eliminate pedophilia is by becoming aware of how it comes into being, seeking to understand, not making it a right or wrong, and finding out what in you is contributing to it, and finding out where you can apply love to prevent, to the extent that you can, a person from becoming an adult with that trauma still in them. When that trauma of sexual abuse often results in the person growing up sexually unsafe and becoming the molester. The way to solve this is to get before it, not to, well, I'm going to make it wrong and bad. Now, if someone did, let's say Aubrey had,
yeah,
exactly. Let's say that Aubrey had a friend or a family member who he found out was committing pedophilia. Let's just say that happened. Aubrey, how are you going to help them? You have no means and no tool. You're wrong and you're bad. Boy, that's going to inspire them to look at themselves. I don't think so. I think seeking to understand how they got there, no matter what the issue is how you help them get out of there. And you can unmake the trauma, and I've seen it and I've done it. You can unmake the trauma in people that's driving their unconscious behaviors, but not if you're making their behavior wrong and bad. You have nothing to contribute when you're walking in that judgment and claiming that you're the fucking arbiter. It's not okay. It's not okay. Well, you go with that then. Good luck.
is actually a common sense sacred axiom with if you see somebody abusing somebody innocently, that's wrong.
Well,
hit pause on that one. Hit pause on
that's
that
a
one.
perspective.
He just claimed that that's a spiritual common sense axiom. If you see someone abusing someone who's innocent, define innocent, Aubrey. You can't. Okay, yeah, but they're 10 years old. And they're also the infinite, eternal creator of their life who created that experience in their childhood for yeah, but what if it kills them? What if they die? Well, you're walking around saying that you accept that everybody's the eternal, infinite creator of their lives, capable of living an infinite number of times, and you just made them a little punk ass victim with no power. Which is it?
That's not a perspective. That's not if for that to be a perspective, then why do we even have laws? Why do we feel? Why does like you could take all kinds of different individuals, and you could expose them to this image and they'd be like horrified by this, right? Because it lives anthro-ontologically. It lives in our body. We actually have value
Well,
built in.
let me add something here. I've had the
Yeah,
opportunity to
fuck
work with
what you're
thousands of
saying. I
people
have
that have
something
been
to
through
add.
these traumas and these terrible things. And as long as you have that idea that it's all bad or it's all good and it's black and white, they're trapped the rest of their life. Because
Truth,
now they're a victim of that.
truth.
I'm at teaching people how to be a master of destiny, not stay victims of history. There's both sides to it. And if we take one side and maybe one life is good and death is bad, that's very narrow, very unaware that your body has got build and destroy. In society, build and destroy.
I didn't
global
say
peace,
death is bad. I just said life in general is good. If there was somebody about to push a button that would detonate all the nuclear bombs in the whole world and the earth was going to cease to have life.
Well, I don't think that even if you launched them all, it would still have life.
Way to listen, John.
Okay. So let's come up with another example here, because you're using hypotheticals. I'm going to use a hypothetical. This is why I think life is good. I think God actually desires for there to be an ever deepening complexity of life.
Do you know God's thoughts? You just made that. That's a bit of a self-righteous projection onto God. You know God's will.
Well, why is there life then? If God didn't
when
want
somebody
life?
says they know God's will,
Why is there
Baz
death?
Luhrmann in the book, there's a movie that's coming
Why is there death then, Aubrey? You're talking out of both sides of your mouth and saying nothing, dude.
out called "Oh My God," I was in, and Baz Luhrmann said anybody that's saying
Look,
claims to know what God's will is,
God is
beware.
always a mystery. However, if you look at what has happened, life has been increasing in complexity and increasing in
At
diversity.
the expense of extinction.
At the
Yes.
what?
Extinction and origination always balance in evolution. You can see that very easily. You don't ever have evolution without extinctions.
Well, then evolution, which leads to more life, is good. So if you're going to snap out all the life in the universe, that's
life,
not good.
Your body has, from the zygote all the way to the fully differentiated individual, you have mitosis and apoptosis in perfect balance. And evolution has been always extinction in order to birth newer species. They have to have extinctions. That's part of it, and adaptations. So to say that life is good and or death is bad, or moving forward
I
towards that
didn't
greater
say death
life.
is bad. I think
But-
death is a part of life. But, life itself.
But life is also taking other resources out of the world and recycling
then why do you
it.
choose to not kill yourself?
We do it every day. I kill parts of myself every day.
No, but you're still alive, fundamentally.
When I show them how to find the blessings out of it and the upsides to that and be able to see the things, they're let free. The guy right now is out of jail. He's not a pedophile anymore. We've dissolved the issue. He hasn't had any issues because we found out what the real reason was, and we changed his life. We also helped him appreciate what his mother was doing because he had an overprotective person in the family. Whenever you have overprotective people in the family, you get a perpetrator that's aggressive. When he starts to, when you understand the psychology that's driving both of these poles, you take out the morality on this and you start understanding why do people do what they do. To just label it bad or good is not going to get you anywhere except keeping them victims. But if they go in and find out how it comes out on the other side, they can sit down and get on with their life and look back at that and say thank you. I always say anything you can't say thank you for is your baggage. Anything you say thank you for is your fuel.
I actually agree with you on that.
Then-
on a personal basis.
But that would be, then we're going to basically say, well, it's like the theodicy. How do we explain the so-called evil in relationship to God? Maybe it's a human invention. Maybe we made that as evil because we haven't seen the blessings of something. Maybe we made something good because we haven't seen the downsides. I'm more in that perspective because I've worked with thousands of people who think they've had terrible events, helped them see the other side of it, actually go to the people and be grateful for those individuals,
Yeah, but
open their heart and have that tear of gratitude for what's happened in their life and used it to do something amazing with their life.
Well, what happens when that ends up in a fatality? Someone murders a child.
Yes.
Like they don't have the
I've gotten
opportunity
to
to
work
be
with
great.
that.
They don't you haven't gotten to work with the murdered child.
I have, not the murdered child, but the family that's
Well,
left
that's
over
what I'm
with it.
talking about. Like the murdered child doesn't have a chance to be grateful for being murdered.
I don't know what's going on in the psychology of the murdered child. Because I didn't get to work with a little murdered child. But I do know I get to work with the family, and I get to watch the dynamics in the family and how it shifts and watch the upsides to that event. Because to say it's just an evil event and there's no benefits to it is very narrowed. The reality is that there's upsides to that event. I worked with a lady after the big
There's
event.
upsides to the murder of children.
Yes, there's upsides to it.
I think we're going to have to stop here, John.
Well, you're too black and white, I guess, for me to be able to share.
I mean,
Can I share my story?
Wow. Okay. I know you guys are going to have some things to say. I got a couple things to say. Two men talking over each other, trying to score points on moral relativism, not hearing anything that the other is saying, waiting for the other to stop talking so that they can score a point. And then Aubrey is now bringing up something that if Demartini was present, he would be able to build a bridge. Okay. So
Totally.
Aubrey, I hear what you're saying. Now, number one, to say there's upsides to the death of that's like, bro, take a breath. Let the other person finish talking. Be present and consider where they are so that you can formulate something that you're not going to later say, oops, I probably shouldn't have said that on a big podcast. There's upsides. It's a nonsense statement. I'm not disputing the truth that Demartini is actually saying. So what if, here's one question, Aubrey. First of all, what if we are in error? Like, we're obviously not perceiving well. Look at human society. No one agrees. Even God, it wasn't Gandhi. It was Krishnamurti's quote. It is no measure of health and wellness to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. Okay, so we look at human choices and the bombs and the diseases and the chemical factory. The humans are out of balance as a rule. Okay, so let's start with that. Now, what if our view of humanity is off? And what if the human species is the human? And what if the human body is a cell in the human, which is humanity? I know that every day cells in my liver die. I'm not bemoaning, oh, that's bad. That's wrong. It's just not okay that cells in my body die. Aubrey, you make no sense on this topic. Okay. And Martini, you're missing the opportunity to help him build a bridge with him to understanding where you and he and the listener could benefit. You guys are scoring points, man. Why? Okay. So when you consider the possibility that humans are each eternal, infinite creators, which I keep saying, if I were to sit with Demartini, if I was to sit with Aubrey right now, and I were to say, do you accept the possibility that we're each creating our reality and that we're eternal creators? They would both say yes, absolutely. Now, I'm going to make a guess that probably Aubrey would say, well, I agree that we're co-creating. And I'd say, where'd you get that shit? That's great. That's okay, but that's still just another belief. I'm operating from the premise, what if we're each creating our reality? Well, if we are, and if we can live an unlimited number of times because our infinite self doesn't die, why are you making the death of one cell such a big moral issue? It's not okay. What if that child is a murderer in another life who's exploring being killed 1,000 times in 1,000 other lifetimes? How is that your business to be the arbiter of what's right and wrong and good and bad? And you're sitting in this moral judgment that you're the authority on what's good and bad. You're saying that life is good. You're acknowledging that death is an aspect of life, and you're still saying that death is bad while pretending you're not saying death is bad, Aubrey. Take a breath, bro. If you want to, take a breath.
Yeah, it's crazy how, how just you noticing the presence, like literally, because like somebody might not realize how much you agree with what Dr. Demartini is actually saying here, right? It's just that
Yeah.
missing the opportunity to be able to illustrate this point to an audience of people that really would benefit from hearing it, right? Actually,
Totally could have benefited the whole audience. And let's flip that coin over. What about Aubrey? When did Aubrey stop and say, listen, I really don't understand what you're saying. I don't get 1 millisecond of either one of these men seeking to understand the other. It's one of the most basic, fundamental aspects of human life. If you desire benefit for yourself and others, one of the most basic, fundamental requirements for that is to seek to understand. I have not, the entire interview, I did not see 1 second where either one of them said, help me understand your perspective. I heard, tell me your perspective so I can shoot your shit down.
yeah, and it's obvious, right? Because then the next video a few days out was like, how do you rate the debate, you know?
Yeah.
So, okay, I got one more for you.
I don't know if I can take any more of this constant dick comparison that's going on here, but I keep putting frankincense on and smelling it, clean myself up while I'm listening. I need to sage myself after this.
I think this is that's a strong mindset to have. I think as a working mindset hypothesis, that is a super helpful thing to have. But somebody could just ball up their fists, be on some drugs, and go punch you in the head. And is that something that you believe that you attracted into your life? Or is that just part of everybody operating from a place of agency?
Anytime you're
or is it
perceiving
something else? Or he just painted 2 options that he accepts as possibilities, and he tried to force Demartini to respond with one or the other.
Right.
somehow impulsively seeking a pole, the opposite pole will be there for you. There's no separation. As Heraclitus described, the unity of opposites is always present. And if you see a pole and you're addicted and infatuated with one pole, the other pole is going to be something you resent, dislike, and label. If you can see both sides simultaneous and see that there's a unity of opposites, you'll realize that it's there to teach us to not be attracted to one or repelled to the other, but to see the whole at the same time. The unity of opposites. The synthesis and synchronicity of complementary opposites is what I described love to be. It's
Boy,
part
that
of
just
love
helped
too.
me understand.
Yeah.
I completely, boy, if I was Aubrey, that would have just shut me down entirely. I didn't hear your question. I'm going to spew out 2 minutes of intellectual gibberish that hopefully will impress your audience.
Yeah.
The law of risk gets
I'm not aiming to be a dick here. I'm just like, what the John Demartini, what was that? That's how you respond to that question. Why? He's asking a question, how do I create the experience of someone balling up their fist and punching me? Is it this or this? And you launch into a diatribe of intellectual gibberish that doesn't even get near the question or near to Aubrey, the human being in front of you. Seriously, man.
Yeah. Plus, Brian, I'm curious your thoughts on this. This is his definition of love: is the two opposites coexisting in somebody. And I'm not sure.
I wouldn't want to be his lover, especially if there's 2 poles involved. But I'm straight, so I'm not really attracted to one pole or another, frankly. So no judgment, but.
Oh, shit.
and we believe in the equal and opposite is always there to balance it in the universe and in the world, to make sure we don't get proud about our perceptions and we get humbled by the other, to make sure that we keep ourselves authentic.
Is this related to the Hermetic principle of rhythm, that there's going to be this kind of sine wave that...
They're simultaneous.
Yeah.
They're simultaneous. I've taken probably
Now we're
150,000
comparing our
people through
intellectual
a
design.
simple question.
Yeah.
Let's say somebody does a particular act that they perceive to be terrible, that they have been indoctrinated by some moral hypocrisy that that's a bad thing. And I go, okay, go to that moment Let's look at where it is, when it is, what it is, who it was from. And at that moment, how did it serve you? And they go, well, it didn't. And I go, but how did it? Because you're assuming if you're seeing only one side, that's a projection of you're putting a box on that action. So when they go and they look and they discover it catalyzed a reflection, it catalyzed a humbleness, it catalyzed independency, it made them less disempowered, it gave them catalyst of some form. I always say any area of your life you're not empowered in, you'll be overpowered by somebody to help you become empowered in that area. And when they stop and they find the other side, it subsides as being something terrible and it becomes now something fuel, some opportunity to grow from. So the challenges in life are necessary to make sure that we have precocious independence and the over-supportive nature that we try to addict ourselves to one.
Interesting, because this is, pretty truthful stuff that's coming out here. It's just when they start getting so combative and I'm going to show you up and show you up, you lose the argument.
Well, I'll tell you something, Keith. I know some people who follow Dr. Demartini very closely. I know some people that are practitioners of his stuff. And as I said, listen, I found him, my God, probably 20, 30 years ago, and I was super impressed. His knowledge, his intellect, undeniably impressive. Now what? I mean, he's spewing some deep, profound, intellectual stuff, some of it tapping into wisdom. That's nice. But what Aubrey is doing, Aubrey is presenting to Demartini as the person in front of him, whether Aubrey knows it or not. He's on that podcast. He's creating his reality. He's in that room to have an experience and potentially learn something, to potentially be curious about something. Demartini has some knowledge and some wisdom. There's no significant knowledge and wisdom, which isn't beneficial if he's not willing to build a bridge. And what I heard from a couple people that work with Demartini, follow him very closely, they said basically he didn't seem to hear Aubrey's questions. He seemed intent on scoring points and spewing his intellectual knowledge at Aubrey. And so it doesn't really, I mean, dude, I could tell you the truth while I'm beating you up. I could tell my kids the truth while I'm abusing and criticizing and condemning them. Where's the benefit in it? Where is the love? Okay. Where is the actual care? I just don't see either one of these men exhibiting any care or any love for anything other than scoring points, winning, and growing a podcast audience. And I'm all for growing the podcast audience. I believe you could do it while loving and listening and building bridges.
Yeah, so let's watch another one here and see what you think, Brian.
Definitely.
Love
So
is
should
love
there
is
be
not
should there
one-sided.
be no law?
Everybody's going to have a different level of awareness. At the very bottom, as Kohlberg said in his moral development, the very bottom of the moral development,
what about the question he asked? What about the question that you were just asked? Yep. I have this soundbite ready to say, I hope you'll get done talking, Aubrey, so I can spit out this next soundbite that I use over. Bro, Aubrey asked the question, should there be no law? Aubrey, how could you ask a less conscious question, my friend? You're walking in shoulds. As a spiritually inclined podcaster walking in wisdom, you're working with shoulds. Okay, now I'm gonna pretend that you ask me love and respect, Aubrey. I'm seriously now. It's just that you're seeming to be and positioning yourself as this spiritually conscious person, and you're asking a question starting with should. Brother, come on, man. Let's take hands and go for a walk and talk about this, okay? So, should there be no laws? Do you accept the possibility that you're creating your reality? Have you ever noticed how laws and the law are designed to control human beings? Have you noticed that the definition of the word government is govern, to control, meant mind? The definition of government is mind control. The police, guarding polarity. Without going into any conspiracy theory whatsoever, and we would be wise to consider those conspirators who choose to collaborate together to try to control other people. I got no shyness about the conspiracy theories without even going there, though. Should there be no laws? Well, certainly some laws don't benefit anyone but the government. Certainly some laws do nothing but discourage creativity and freedom. Certainly some laws. So what should there be no air? It's a nonsense question. What are there any laws that are beneficial? Now, some walking in wisdom would say laws create criminals. What about considering that for a moment? Laws create criminals. Police need bad guys or they don't have a job. In medicine, a patient healed is a client or a customer lost. Those entities in so-called human society exist as elements of our unconscious. Yeah, but Brian, if all the people were set free and there were no laws, everyone would just go. Are you sure? What do you base that on? Playing this self-righteous arbiter of morality guardian to people that are all creating their reality and don't need it.
Right and wrong and black and white and reward and punishment and heaven and hell and all that stuff. As you go up, it becomes more abstract and you understand situational ethics until you finally understand universal laws. When universal laws are there, you realize that these are synthesis of opposites. And that's what the purpose of the dialectic was used for.
Hit pause. Dr. Demartini, I'd like to communicate with you about what you just said. You just said you at this lower level of consciousness, you have good and bad and right and wrong, positive and negative, cops and robbers, and okay. But as you rise in consciousness, it becomes more abstract. Well, I'm not sure that that's true, but I hear you. And then you immediately, well, when you get to a certain level, then you encounter these universal laws. Are you sure? Aren't they just a projection further up of the same exact bullshit down below? Might there be a place of awareness that looks, so to speak, down, but that's not true? Look, you just made universal laws higher and more than those beliefs about good and bad and right and wrong. But the more unconscious you are, the more you fall for the low level awareness of it, which is good and bad and right and wrong. As you get more aware and more intellectual, not more conscious, you perceive those same things now as universal laws. Now I've graduated. I'm no longer doing those universal laws. I'm doing these universal laws. Are you absolutely positive, beyond a shadow of a doubt, there are any universal laws? I know you can prove any damn thing you want. With science, you can prove both sides and all sides of anything. But are you positive, beyond a shadow of a doubt, there are any universal laws? And Dr. Demartini, if you accept the possibility that you're creating your reality, who's creating those universal laws and all the evidence that comes with them? You're just doing the same error while you're pointing at Aubrey's error.
Yeah, I mean, it goes so deep. Like, we think about even like the levels of consciousness, right? It's like there's always this element of hierarchy, even if it in the spiritual universe.
Within the mind, because they're not in presence, they're in the mind, thinking that they, the law of attraction, one of these things, they both, it was so interesting. I heard them both say the word attraction You attracted that. And then Aubrey denied that he had said the word attraction. They both said it. Okay. But here's the deal. See, when we are in the most unconscious, we think, oh God, it's me against the world. We get a little bit more intelligent and we start to use our minds a little bit more, and we get a little more strategic. We reach a certain level of awareness and we say there must be more. Oh, look, it's God. It's God. Okay, it's God. So now I'm going to become religious and I'm going to learn to follow the religious laws and all that shit. Then people cross over to what I call level 4 consciousness. And I say with love and respect, I'm not diagnosing Dr. Demartini. I'm not diagnosing Aubrey. I'm saying that in the paradigm that I'm speaking from, they're both walking purely in level 4 consciousness. They have risen up out of the old time religion to an extent, and they don't know, they think they're spiritual now. They don't know that they're still playing another level of religion. And the law of attraction, which they both believe in, is another creation of the mind. It's like they're each thinking that they're at a level of awareness where they've woken up, but they're just running the exact same script on a different form of religion. And this idea of law of attraction, well, if you walk with the idea that all is one, what is there to attract something else? The law of attraction is true if you're unconscious and you believe in it, and you'll get endless evidence of it. I look at life from an entirely different perspective. And when I work with people and I share that perspective, their problems disappear and their miraculous existence begins above these religious ideas that they think are spiritual.
Brian, to me, this is tied into how you talk about you're not a guru, you're not a teacher. So you're actually a reminder. And I think that's something valuable to share here.
Yeah, I would say, like, I haven't looked at Aubrey's profile on any social media, but he certainly sees himself as a teacher. And certainly Demartini sees himself as a teacher, and whatever else they label themselves as. Well, this is one of those areas where I don't intend to be contrarian. It's just that when I woke up and I discovered how to get out of hell, and I've been helping other people do it, I discovered some things. And one of the things I discovered is that if you believe you're a teacher, then you're disrespecting everyone else on this planet. If you become aware, now, don't get me wrong. If you don't accept the possibility that everyone is creating their reality, you go be the teacher with your bad self. That you rock on with your teacher self. Namaste, enjoy yourself. But for someone who's claiming to be conscious, if everyone is the creator of their reality and all is one, then all are reflections of the infinite eternal one, having ever-present access to all the knowledge, information, and power that's ever been and will ever be. You can't teach nobody shit. If anybody on this planet, with the results that I have, hundreds of thousands of people changing their lives like wildly and profoundly, often in a few minutes, I would call myself a healer. I would call myself a teacher. I know that that's not true. I'm reminding infinite, unlimited beings that they're unlimited. And those who are interested and willing to consider that, step out of their suffering. These guys are just playing religion, whether they know it or not. Namaste. Love you both. No disrespect.
Yeah. Another religion. Totally. It's crazy. Okay. Let's see if there's anything left in this clip here. I think he gets deeper into the laws
Bullshit.
of opposites and stuff. I think it might be this clip.
That's when I quit. I was like, I'm out.
One more, and then let's see if we got anything here.
Zeno, it was there to teach people to honor both sides of life. So at first, you're going to avoid that, seek that. But as the Buddha said very beautifully, the desire for that which is unobtainable and the desire to avoid that which is unavoidable is the source of human suffering. People are suffering trying to get rid of half of their life. If you look and you did a drone viewing of you or me or any human being for 3 months at a time and video recorded them 24 hours a day, you wouldn't see a hero without a villain. You wouldn't see a saint without a sinner. You wouldn't see a positive without a negative. You wouldn't see a like without a dislike. Nature has a balance of opposites, and wisdom is the embracing of the two sides of life, not the fantasy of one-sidedness.
Couldn't
No,
disagree more.
I've been studying this 53 years.
Say what?
You might want 54. I said I couldn't disagree more. Nature is the balance of opposites. Wisdom is the recognition that all opposites are false. Everything that has an opposite doesn't actually exist. And I know the vast majority of people aren't ready for that. It does require some explanation. More than explanation from someone who cares, there's a necessity of curiosity. But this dude is just spewing his intellectual conceptualizations as truth. And yeah, so that one was fun.
All right, let's see if there's anything left in this one here.
He commented.
What's that?
Keep on if you don't mind. I just want to say that, and I continue to say, and I will continue to say. So Aubrey invited people to do a dissection of the debate. Okay, he probably didn't expect one from the perspective that I'm bringing, but here we are. I am not speaking in disrespect. I have fun with my life. Okay, you both know me. I have fun with my life. And he just said, I've been studying this for 53 years. And do you have a point? You can study error for 10,000 years and you'll get more and more brilliant theories about error. How is that impressive? So.
All right, so I think we got enough here to wrap this video up. If you want to learn more about anything that Brian said, I would go get the book, Your New Beginning. If you're watching this on YouTube, just look in the description. It's like $8. It'll change your life, and it comes with some of the most amazing free video lessons, like the 5-layer breath and really cool fast start training. And there'll be some free lessons, free webinar links as well in the description. If you enjoyed this, comment, share it with somebody. Share it with somebody you know. Get their opinion on it. Yeah, absolutely. And Brian talked a lot about becoming present and being present in this video here. And that, what you just mentioned, Keith, the breathing videos that we have that are free for everybody, that's where you start. So check those out, and we'll definitely include those below. Cool. All right. Well, until the next one, namaste, motherfuckers. The famous Brian saying.